Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to the BlackUSA.News morning show. My name's Donnie Glover here with some very fine people representing Northwest Baltimore County. Linda Dorsey Walker, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Danny Brown, how you living?
I'm living good, Donnie. How about you?
I'm grateful. George White, where your camera at?
Oh, yeah, right here. Can you see me? Oh, yeah. Right beside me. Woke up on this side of the grass, so I'm excited.
Where your camera? Where is your camera, George?
With the handheld camera?
Yeah, where your camera at?
I can go get it. It's not too far.
Okay, so George, I understand some legislation went down recently that you want to talk about.
Oh, yeah, we have our chairperson here, Mr. Danny Blunt. He can kind of share more to that. I was a member of the committee, but Danny can take you a little step further.
Okay, well, bring it on, Danny.
Well, yeah, on Saturday, May the 22nd, we had our Baltimore County Democratic State Central Committee, Maryland Democratic Party biannual meeting. And at that meeting, one of the agenda items, because the meeting was really based upon a lot of amendments that were going to be discussed and voted on at this particular meeting. And one piece of business was the dual seats being held by these elected officials, which, Donnie, I'm sure you've been following for decades. So what had happened was that the language was presented to the whole body, and we were able to discuss a little bit and vote on it, and it passed unanimously that no longer can any elected officials in the state of Maryland can hold dual seats. And we're really, really proud about that.
Why is that significant, Danny?
Well, it's significant because the grassroots folks, the folks that are in the trenches, who know what's going on in their districts, are going to have the opportunity to run for a seat on the Central Committee. That's number one. They don't have to challenge incumbents any longer. And the power is given back to the community. That's the biggest thing that there is. We've been fighting to get the community more involved, more inclusive on the Central Committee, and it has been held hostage for decades. So that's really the most significant thing there is, Donnie.
Linda, I see you shaking your head. You feel like the community was held hostage also?
Well, I don't know if it's held hostage, but let me explain that back in 1994, when I first ran for office in Baltimore County, I ran for 2 offices. You still will be able to run for 2 offices. It's just that you will only be able to occupy one. Heretofore, if you won both offices, let's say you ran for House of Delegates or for County Council, and you also won the Baltimore County Central Committee or the Baltimore City Central Committee, all the jurisdictions have their own separate Central Committee, you could hold both offices. And that meant that those individuals who hold seats in the State House could exercise what we felt was undue pressure sometimes when we were considering the best way for the Democratic Party to move. They have influence naturally. And so people began to question whether that was a good thing for people, since the Democratic Party and all the parties around the country are supposed to be made up of grassroots folks. And so I didn't win both offices in 1994. I won Democratic State Central Committee, and I've served 6 terms on the Central Committee representing both the 10th and 11th district. But this is a good thing. Danny was very persistent about it, and it's finally happened.
I saw George. You want to chime in here?
Oh yeah, just to kind of piggyback what was said already is a few years ago when I began to really focus on running for office, we found that it was almost like the fox guarding the hen house. We found that we said, well, Dad, what is going on where a person can actually hold dual seats? And we was kind of fighting way back when to try to make changes. But as you're well aware, when things are written in the bylaws, that's the law. So in order to make change, then you have to continue to be a part and step up and get on committees where you can actually make a difference. So as we went along, then we found, okay, well, if it's the bylaws, then okay, let's go on these various committees that we can serve. I went and I joined the communications committee, but then I also joined the bylaws committee, and that's where the meat is on the bone. But anyway, Brother Danny, he became our chairperson, and he's like you say, he definitely drew his line in the sand, and we all kind of agreed because that's what kind of makes you get on committees initially, because people kind of think and believe the way you do. But then we went on and we kind of focused in. We spoke on the unfairness of it, which most people believe that it was unfair. We just had to find a way to make change. And then
What did you find? What did you find unfair?
Well, you found it's unfair because it's almost like if you, like you say, with your show, for instance, okay, this is Donnie's show. But if you have a board members that's supposed to tell you what's right and what's wrong and be able to vote, and then you're a member of your own board and you can vote, then you can always override what is being said and done, which is really unfair. What's the purpose of a board if you're going to be the person that outvotes the board? And that
I
was
want to know who on this panel is going to spill the beans, because you didn't spend all of this time changing the state central committee bylaws simply because you woke up one day and said, one person shouldn't have two seats. That's not it. Come on, who's going to spill the beans and say what it really, really is?
Well, what it really was for me, we're going to start with Baltimore County, because in October of 2020, the Baltimore County Democratic State Central Committee, we changed our bylaws. I became the chair of the bylaws committee in 2019, and we realized, as George said, that in order to make change, you got to be part of that change. So I became the chair, and from that point moving forward, which at that time as well, Crystal Francis, who is our chair of the Baltimore County Democratic State Central Committee, she became our new chair. So with her being at the helm, and us having a bylaws committee that was active and determined and committed to make this change happen, we were able successfully in October of 2020 to get this done. With that being said, the meat of it for me is that in our particular district, the 10th legislative district, it's been like years and years and years before any of the laymen, the people from the community, was able to get on the central committee. So in 2018, because of because of the name recognitions, and a lot of the elected officials were holding these positions.
Yeah,
it was very, very difficult, and for people to run and beat these incumbents. But also, a lot of the community did not know what the Central Committee was about. That's the biggest thing. They were not informed what the Central Committee was about, and they weren't supported by those who did know what it was about. And so when I said earlier about it being held hostage, that's what I mean by that, is that we were not informed about what the Central Committee was about, how powerful the Central Committee was, the fact that these elected officials who were holding these dual seats were also able to fill vacancies when they occurred. And what they did normally, they were able to put folks in there that they knew, that they wanted, who was on board with them. And so, as I said, in 2018, Kenny Brown came to me and says, Danny, we need to do something about this. He came and got me and said, Danny, you got to run for this office. We need you to go and break the glass ceiling. So that's what happened. I ran for office. I was successful, and I went there with my slogan for my campaign called "It's Time for Change," and we've been changing ever since. And so now it has gone to the state level, and so here we are today. And that's the reason why it's very significant, Donnie. That's the backstory. That's the meat of it.
Well, let me add.
That's the polite version. Yeah. Come on, Linda.
Let me add something else in. There was spillover effect. Not only did we have people serving dual office at the central committee level, at the local level, but we also had people serving dual roles at the state level, where they got to be on the DNC and be an officer at the state level. So there wasn't the necessary turnover needed. And so this wasn't the first time that this was attempted.
Linda, you kind of rushed through that last point. Can you break that down?
Well, you want to bring in fresh blood. And everything is evolving. It's no secret. Everybody knows that at the national level, for example, the Democratic Party, the average person in Congress is 30 years older than the average person in the Republican Party. The way to get into the political system, for the most part around the country, is through the Central Committee. And because the Central Committee also gets to name who fills vacancies, as Danny said, let's say if I can make a little donation that helps the party along, there's more incentive to keep me around, especially if I have a lot of name recognition as an elected official. Now, in the future, moving forward, we're still inviting elected officials to play a strong role with the Democratic Party. They just won't be occupying one of the seats that helps to fill vacancies. They'll still be invited to participate and have many other roles, but we want some young people who haven't had a chance. A lot of people didn't know, as Danny said, all these years what the Central Committee did, not just running the party, but filling vacancies as well. And that's an important role in the state of Maryland.
The first object of power is to maintain power.
That's right.
The elected officials who have been in there, quite understandably, their job is to protect where they are. The first object of power is to stay in power. Kenny Brown, you the one that started all of this stuff. Let's see what you got to say.
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what. I can speak to it. I took a special interest in this when it came to Baltimore County. And
are you gonna spill the beans? Because Danny's giving us the politically correct, and George co-signed it. Linda wanted to pimp slap somebody, but Danny did mention the 10th legislative district, and if my memory serves me correctly, you got a boss state senator out there named Dolores Kelly, and the only one that used to kind of check her was Ella White Campbell.
Yeah. Oh, well, let me tell you this. This holding duel.
I live in Sandtown.
Wait a minute. Yeah, you coming from my hood back there, so you just come with it all. But in Baltimore County, here was the bottom line. This holding dual office thing didn't exist until the 10th district came into being in Baltimore County. And I'm talking about Baltimore County because it's rampant in your backyard.
It still is.
It's rampant in your backyard, man.
It still is.
The city I don't believe there's an elected official in the city that doesn't sit on a central committee somewhere. But in Baltimore County, it didn't exist until the formation.
Slow down talking about my city.
Yeah, look. You told me
we asked all those people running for county executive about the drug dealers in Baltimore City that live out Randallstown. So slow down, beating up.
Well, they don't want to. They don't want to work. They don't want to live where they do business. That's all. They don't want customers knocking on their doors. But in any case, when it came down to, when I looked at this story about probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I looked around the county, and it stood out to me that the only place there were elected officials sitting on the Central Committee was in the 10th District. And I said, why is that? What is going on with that? Well, when I did a little more homework, we bring our Senator up, Dolores Kelly. Where did she come from?
Baltimore City.
She came from Baltimore City, so she brought what she knew with her to Baltimore County and set up the same apparatus. But the idea was, I never thought it was right. My buddy George says there, I love his. Go ahead. I can't hear you.
All right. So you're saying Dolores contaminated Baltimore County with Baltimore City politics?
No, I'm not going to say that, because she and I at the beginning were the only two minorities. I don't mean just African Americans. We were the only two minorities. Dolores Kelly and I were the only two minorities on the Central Committee. And at that point in time, I'm going to be honest with you, she was able to bring a lot of attention to us and power and clout and so forth. I don't regret that period of time at all. Since the time, Baltimore County Central Committee has now become the most diverse Central Committee in the whole state. We have people of every background, every political philosophy and orientation and religion and so forth. But
well, Linda, I can counter that.
Need more openings.
I can counter that, Linda. You say it's very diverse, but I see that you never had anything but a white male county executive. So that diversity has a ceiling, it seems. When y'all gonna get a black county executive out there?
That's a whole nother show, Donnie.
That's a whole nother show. Right now, I'm the only African American that's been elected in the 11th district, which is Pikesville, Owings Mills, Hunt Valley, Green Spring Valley, or going all the way over to Oregon Ridge.
And she's being quiet, but let's talk about the Central Committee and that power. Remember, the Central Committee, 5 members get to decide when there's a vacancy.
Yeah.
Who gets to fulfill that vacancy? Now, Linda's been on the Central Committee, what, 20 years?
24 years.
24 years. A vacancy became available in the 11th district. Right? 5 individuals got to choose who replaced that individual. Linda Dorsey Walker has been elected 5, 6 times in that district as a Central Committee member. But guess when that delegate seat became open, guess who got the seat? Somebody who never run for election, who had never received a vote, but those 5 individuals got to choose who that person was. That's how important the Central Committee is. If you don't get the right people in there, they get to control the show. So we got in the 11th district, here was a candidate who was more than worthy of holding that position and didn't get it because for whatever those other 4 individuals were who decided that you weren't the right person, they took and put a person in who was just politically connected.
Who I had just appointed 1 year before.
And you appointed the person.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right off the road.
Yeah.
Well, let's just make this clear. This issue is not necessarily about race.
No.
Power. It's about power, okay. Donnie. Yep.
And power to do what? Because if that seat only comes up, if you have one time in 20 years where the State Central Committee got to make a difference, one could argue, was it worth the effort? Well, remember, we just talked about that one district there. You know, our Speaker of the House, Adrian Jones, she got to become a delegate through the Central Committee.
And I was one of the 3 that appointed her.
She got to become a delegate through the Central Committee. Yeah. So it's what I want the community to understand. These Central Committee seats are so important. If they weren't so important, elected officials wouldn't want to sit there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And people who leave office want to come back to sit on the Central Committee. We have several former elected officials on our Central Committee now.
Well, if you look at the General Assembly, and it's like between 25 to 30% of the folks there got there through the Central Committee.
Yes.
So it's a very powerful committee, and the elected officials, they know how powerful it is. As Linda said, they wouldn't be on it if it didn't benefit them. So it's really a real big problem, and more people do know about it now than ever, especially in the 10th legislative district. Because
Oh yeah, we've been working. I've been working hard on that.
But
Yes.
but you know what concerns me right now? Some of our youngest members are minorities, but not African Americans. I want some of our young college age and recent graduates, not just people who are new American citizens, to realize the potential in the Central Committee, because some of our youngest members.
Well, what is our outreach to the young people? When do we outreach to the young people? Where? Who?
College Dems, young Dems, their own associations.
Yeah, it's
Bob, we like to welcome you to the show, Bob. You live in the county, you work in the city, you've been involved in politics in both jurisdictions. What do you say about this state central committee change where an elected official has to make their mind up? You're going to be a delegate, a state senator, or a state central committee member? Pick one.
money.
I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen a little more, Donnie, if I may, before I even respond to that. This is an area of politics. This is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. And I even though I've been involved in politics for a long time, it's not been at this level. So I need the folks on here who know the process at this level to teach me in reality.
Well, Donnie, you brought the question up about where are the young people, and I can tell you that a lot of the young people I spoke to, because elected officials were sitting there, and let's get this in mind: you have to run for the office. You have to be elected to the office. So that's not something that you just get up and decide. And then for a lot of it, recently, these people have to go out and spend money, right, to gain a seat that is not paid. It's a not paid position. And young people didn't see the value in going against elected officials who have huge campaign funds. So not only am I advertising myself for the job of delegate, but I'm also advertising myself for the job of central committee. And they never saw the purpose. How can I compete with that? And you got a lot of them who just sit back and say, it's not worth it to me to go battle the giant, and wouldn't do it. So that's the other reason why
I get why it's important, but I asked Linda, where is our outreach to the young people? How do we get them
can I
involved?
Add
How do we change their perception? How do we change their perception of politics? Because we've given them the impression that it's very corrupt.
No.
George answer.
Go ahead, George.
No, I didn't want to talk over Donnie. But anyway, what I've chose to do is that I believe in duplication. And over the years, I've watched our current leaders, nobody grooms nobody. But what I've done in the last 2 years, I have 2 folks that I'm actually training to become next in line. And that way, if something happens and I get sick, I step down. I've already got 2 people trained in the trenches. Now I'm in the county, but one of my mentees is in District 45 in the city. So our job is to reach out and find young people that we can train and groom to move in. So I'm doing that early on.
Listen,
also to show you how the program's supposed to work. Okay, just in District 44B, okay, we had Charles Sittenor, the state senator. He was a delegate. Sheila Roof, who was Central Committee. Now, when Shirley Nathan Pulliam retired, and the way that this Central Committee could vote, they voted Charles Sittenor as a new state senator. Okay, in turn, Sheila Roof, who was a Central Committee member, she got appointed to Charles Sidnor's seat. Now, early on during the election, last election, part of our platform, and Sheila Ruth was part of it, she said, okay, if I ever get elected to a higher position, I will relinquish my seat on the Central Committee. So when she got promoted to delegate, I kind of gave her a call and said, okay, Sheila, remember what your platform was on. So she said, George, I hear you. So she resigned from the Central Committee. That way it opened a slot for me because I started as a guest. I moved to associate member. I moved to member at large, and I was a member at large for a minute. Then when Sheila stepped down, I ran for her elected seat on the Central Committee. And as a result, I was blessed to get that seat. But because the nominating committee had people on the committee that looked like me, I was able to secure those votes. And now I'm an elected member of the Central Committee. So I found that a lot of times if we train and we get people on the committees that look like us, then we can make things happen.
Yeah.
Well,
So George, you're saying that prior to this, nobody has been grooming people out Liberty Road.
Right. No, I ain't worried about nobody. I'm just worried about me.
well,
I started.
No. Don't change the rules, George. We're talking about the 10th legislative district. You're saying
44.
that prior to now, nobody was grooming the next generation, correct?
no, he's not saying that,
I
Don.
don't know. That
I'm not saying that.
He's not
I'm
saying
just
that at
saying-
all.
I'm just saying me, when I got there, I found that a lot of times that's why it was hard for
clear
young
about
people
you.
to run.
For example, Donnie, yesterday I was on the phone talking to 4 different young women, encouraging them, and I'm going to encourage other women that are listening now to apply for the Emerge of Maryland program. Emerge of Maryland. It is a special program that will train you over the course of 9 months how to be a successful candidate. And several of the young women who have recently gone on and are now in the State House and other elected positions, they are alumni members of the Emerge program. That application is due within the next week or so.
What is? I don't.
Emerge.
What is Emerge about?
E-M-E-R-G-E.
Who runs
No.
that, Linda? Whose program is that?
It's really a national program. They decided to come up with a national curriculum to get women to be successful candidates all over the country.
All right. Can I chime in a little bit now? Because what the issue, the fundamental issue that I think is underlying this discussion up to this point, we don't have in our community an established mechanism for training our leaders. We don't have an African American Leadership Training Institute, for example. It shouldn't be up to George or Linda or Kenny or anybody individually to have the responsibility for training the next generation. We should have a formal process for doing that. And we need to have a process that we control from start, because we all know, we've lived long enough to know that people that look like us are not necessarily like us.
and
That's why I have a problem with Emerge in this national program, because who are they? I don't know what their ulterior motives are. We have trouble dealing with. We already got enough trouble dealing with the Democrats in Maryland.
They don't have ulterior motives. But one of the young women I spoke with, I hesitate to give her name. She is an alumnus of the Emerge program, and you know what she said? I'm not going to run for office right now because I'm going to focus on starting an African American version of Emerge for Baltimore County. That's what she told me yesterday.
And
okay, but let's say
hold it, Donnie. Wait a second. Wait a second. And if you like, I will commit to assist her in doing that very thing. Because that's what we've got to do. We've got to establish our own mechanism for identifying and training and promoting, if you will, our own people. And we've got to be, maybe it's akin to what the Goon Squad used to be in Baltimore City. Maybe it's akin to something else. But the problem is we don't have a process. We don't have a process for doing that. And so more often than not, what we end up doing is not really making a selection at all, but agreeing on who the selection will be.
Exactly. And I'm gonna tell you something, and that's why in the 10th district in Baltimore County, we have started a group that's doing all of that called the 10th District Democratic Club. And that 10th District Democratic Club is going to be mentoring. It's going to be having all types of different programs and for the young people to come in. We're recruiting from high schools, colleges, and everything. Because back in the day, there was these groups that you would participate in who decided who was going to run. You had to get the approval if you were running or not. You don't just go out there rogue and say, I want to be this, I want to be that. No, you have to get the permission because of your worth to be able to run and represent the Black community as a whole. Those are the things that we've lost over the years.
So with all due respect, there was a mechanism. The truth of the matter is maybe somebody didn't like who was running the mechanism, right? I just want somebody to be honest with me.
It was a mechanism in place. Absolutely.
Wait, and was that mechanism the 10th District Democratic Club? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying, I'm talking about in Baltimore. I'm talking about Baltimore City. No, that's not what I'm saying. No. The 10th District Democratic Club is a new club that just started back in 2019.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that
I have the dubious distinction. Wait a minute, Don. I have the dubious distinction of being probably the only.
Hold up, Mr. Bob. There was a 10th District Democratic Club or something out there. Now you might have renamed it, but there's always been a club out there, correct?
Well, it was a club, and it was ran by Senator Dolores Kelly, and she changed the name of the club.
Okay.
She changed the name of the club.
Wait, Donnie, I can't hear his answer before you go ahead, man. I'm trying to learn something.
With all due respect, I just want to get some clarity because I don't want to go around in circles, playing around. Just identify the 600-pound gorilla in the room, and that's Dolores Kelly. That's all.
You know, let me hear that from Danny, who was telling me.
Well, let me. You know what? You guys ain't. But anyway, let me tell you like this:
I'm the one here who actually ran against her.
The whole truth, and nothing but the truth is this. Yes, there was a 10th District Democratic Club, and Dolores Kelly was behind that club. Okay. What Dolores Kelly did was she changed the name of her club so that she can branch out in other districts and get folks in that she wanted to be in the club. So she changed the name of the club, and I think it's called the Northwest Democratic Club, something like that now.
The Baltimore County West, and all she did was she expanded it so it would take in District 44 too.
And that's what she wanted. She wanted to be able to expand it so that she can, not have a problem with dealing with folks outside the 10th district.
So but this 10th district club that was formed in 2019 is not the same as her club.
No. We purposely put this club together so that we can focus on the 10th district solely. And to
I would certainly want to participate and assist. As I say, I think I'm the only one on this call who ran against her and lost by a considerable margin, I might add, in 1998.
Okay.
Was that the first election, Bob? Was that the very first one? 94 was the first election, wasn't
94. That's when she and I both got on the Senate.
He came in 94, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Over in the county, Baltimore County.
You ran against her in 98.
Yeah. I ran for Senate against her in 98. And as a result, one of the results from that was not only did I lose, but her and cabinets, when it came time to create the 4th councilmatic district, did a little number on my house and just sort of drew it around my house so that she wouldn't face competition from me again.
No, actually, it didn't work out that way. I won't go into the specifics, but that's the reason that the lines were drawn.
I'm gonna go into some specifics. The lady used to be.
All I know is I'm not in the 4th district. That's all I know.
No, you're not. But things are going to change. Things are going to change radically, and that's what a lot of people who are elected are fearful about. So even though we're spending a lot of time talking about incumbent elected officials, things are getting ready to change radically because the Northwest District of Baltimore County grew disproportionate to the rest of the county. So all of us who have been together in some of these districts, get ready to be split up. And it's not going to be because someone deliberately drew around my house or anything like that, but because there's just way more people that live here than 10 and 20 years ago.
Right. Right. So can we afford to focus just on the 10th district, or was Dolores really on to something that we have to have a regional approach?
It has to be a regional
a district approach.
It has to be a regional approach.
Well, you know, there's a lot of it's a lot of reasons behind why she did what she did. Some of that may be what you just alluded to, Donnie, but there's you know, it's a whole lot of things involved in that. But I think that everybody needs to have representation. Everybody needs to have a seat at the table. Everybody needs to be empowered and engaged. And it's important that everybody gets to be educated on how to become involved in this political process, because that's exactly what the deal is.
Okay.
And to talk about real quick, Donnie, and to talk about the Maryland Democratic Party and their decision to change their bylaws or to amend their bylaws to when elected officials won't be able to hold dual seats. Just think about this. On the Maryland Democratic Party, their executive board, and we voted in 2018 to vote in Myra Rockamore Cummings. Let's just use that for a quick example. She came in, she beat out Kathleen Matthews, right?
Chris Matthews' wife.
Chris Matthews' wife. So they did that. Well, when they were running, they knew that Myra had some a lot of support. So they brought in Coy McRae to run for the vice chair of the Maryland Democratic Party, that executive board seat, and try to also bring in votes to help Ms. Matthews keep her seat. Well, she wasn't successful, but he was. Think about it. He's a senator and he's on the executive board of the Maryland Democratic Party, a conflict of interest just like those in Baltimore County. So now that they've done that, they have resolved that issue as well. So that's major, because you shouldn't, it's a conflict of interest to have elected officials on these committees like that. It really has been a problem.
I mean, I think we ought to call it by the right name. It's not a conflict of interest. It's duplicitous.
Well,
it allows you to eat your cake and have it too.
Power. Let's call it what it is. Power.
It's about power. It's about power. That's right.
My buddy George, sitting right over in the corner, will use this phrase. He says they want to drive the bus and they want to have their butt in the passenger seat too. So you can't be two places at one time.
Yeah, but it's all about deciding who decides. It's all about creating the process of deciding who decides.
Yeah.
So can I get a word in? Can I get a word in?
Okay. Go ahead, man.
So I've heard for the past 38 minutes, clearly nobody here likes Dolores Kelly. But to that woman's credit.
No. That's not true.
I said from the beginning that thank goodness someone with that experience was when they were only two months. It was a good thing somebody with that experience was there.
I want to finish my comment. I don't hear any of y'all taking any hits for Dolores. But to that woman's credit, she might be the brightest Black person that we have in Annapolis.
Well, wait a minute. Let me just tell you this. Dolores is one of the hardest working, most outspoken people in Annapolis. How do I know? I've got over 36 pieces of legislation under my belt that I proposed. And that meant going down year after year after year to get those pieces of legislation passed. So I got a chance to see up front in Annapolis who were the strong spokespersons, okay? That doesn't mean that sometimes you don't have disagreements with the person. It doesn't mean that sometimes the person isn't operating in their own self-interest. But when it comes to her, she is one of the strongest voices still, even at her age, in Annapolis.
Without question.
And being that strong, she has her mind on who she wanted to mentor. First, she started with the kid Robert, and then he goes off the plantation and runs against her. But she did try to groom a young person, and that young person stabbed her in the back.
You talking about Rob Johnson?
Yeah, Rob
Yeah.
Johnson. Yeah.
Rob Johnson.
Well, her two mentors were Charles Signor. Her mentees were Charles
And Rob Johnson.
Yeah, they were
Am I
her.
wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right.
It happened.
But what's your point, Donnie?
Yeah.
That
So,
she
yeah, yeah,
is working to groom. It's just
No.
that maybe some people don't like who she's grooming or how she's grooming. But she has done the things that you have talked about.
Well, there is such a thing as grooming a person to come and take the job, and then there's something about grooming a person who's not going to be independent of you, but to carry your water. That's a difference. Well,
So
here's
on
perfect
that note,
example. We got Linda Dorsey Walker on this call with us right now. Well, we all agree that she's intelligent. She's been in the game a long time. Have you ever been supported by Dolores Kelly, Linda Dorsey Walker? And you just said a lot of great things about her.
That's right. How about that? How about
Not
that, Linda?
one.
How about the speaker?
Not once,
Not
because I believe
I'm
it
glad
has a
you
lot to do
mentioned
with your independence.
hold on, Donnie. Go ahead, Kenny. Finish your thought.
I think it has a lot to do with her independence. I don't believe that you're bright, you're independent, and that's the difference there, Donnie. I don't, it's one thing to mentor somebody, but it's another thing to say, okay, I'm going to help you get the job, but then you do what I say do.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I got you. But there's one caveat that you guys have overlooked and have not addressed.
What's that?
I went to Adrian Jones every bit of 12 years ago, and I asked her, why run for state senator?
We can't hear you. You're frozen. What'd you say?
What'd you say, Donnie?
You frozen.
Why hasn't Adrian run for state senator? Why hasn't Adrian run for state senator?
Well, it makes sense for
He's not going to run against. He's not going to run
She's
against
one of the most powerful people in the United States right now as Speaker of House. She is one of the most powerful women in the country.
Yeah, but Donnie said he asked her the question years ago. I don't know why that's relevant in 2021.
No, it wasn't. No.
Yes, it is, because they're complaining about the same state senator. Adrian could have run against her and maybe even won. But Adrian says she wanted to stay in the House and stay and control and keep that power.
Well, that state
Isn't that
senator
the same thing we said about Dolores?
That state senator made her become a delegate.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there it is.
Three people made her a delegate. Senator Kelly, myself, and Charles Arthur. And she's been a delegate all these years. Only 3 people.
So she
Why don't she want to be a senator? Most people want to move up.
Well, it would not be an advancement to move from
you make it a place like this is strange.
Being Speaker of the House is way more powerful than being a state senator.
Yes.
Being anywhere in the country, everyone knows that.
But that's not what he was saying, Linda. He was saying years ago. Why didn't she do it years ago? Why didn't she do it years ago is what he's asking.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant today.
Yeah.
That's my whole point. Why she did it years ago has absolutely nothing to do with where we are today.
It is exactly the fight that we're talking about right here. Is Adrian going to be the boss of Northwest Baltimore County, or is Dolores?
Well, that's a relevant question, but that has nothing to do with what she did 10 years ago.
Sure it does.
Today, no. Today the issue is
Dolores Kelly wants to go. She wants to go. She wants to retire.
Donnie, if Dolores wanted to retire, Dolores
would have retired. Absolutely.
Okay? So nobody's keeping Dolores from retiring.
So why hasn't she done?
Nobody wants to get up. Nobody wants to get up from the table because there ain't nobody to hold your seat if you decide to come back. She don't want to give up that power any more than anybody else that has power wants to give it up.
That's a fact.
She's had a wonderful career in Annapolis. I can't imagine why she wouldn't want to be on a beach with a Mai Tai.
Come on.
Donnie, come on now. Power.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you is the phenomena? What did I tell you was the phenomena that exists among Democrats that doesn't exist among Republicans? The average Republican will be a young person that serves on the Central Committee 1 or 2 terms. Then they'd have a move up through the election process and they go on up and become a congressperson. They don't feel the need to stay there for 50 years. They stay for maybe 2 terms, 3 terms at the most, and then they go back out into the private sector and cash in. That's not been, in many cases, especially in the minority community, an option that was
The
open.
black community. No, we're
And
talking
so,
about black people. Black
in
people.
the black community,
The black
it
community.
wasn't always, it wasn't like you had this corporate job waiting for you afterwards.
Then Linda,
They stayed. They just continue staying.
It's true. I
Linda,
mean,
They died out.
then Linda, I submit that the distinguishing factor is not Democrat or Republican, it's white or black.
Yeah.
Being Democrat or Republican makes no difference. If you black, your path is exactly the same.
Yeah.
That's
Who
right.
you are for as long as you can.
That's right. Tim Scott is going to stay in a Republican representative forever because he doesn't have a big corporate job waiting for him afterwards.
Well,
So-
because he's being paid well to
Yeah.
guard the gate.
Yeah.
Well, we know eventually it's going to come to a time where Senator Kelly is going to retire. She's the only one who can make that
So
decision.
y'all just gonna wait for her to just walk
She's the
away.
only one who can make that decision.
That's right.
Because as it states right now, she is the incumbent, and she will stay there until she resigns.
Mhm.
Or retire,
Or until somebody comes up and she-
Or
until an organized group of folk or organizations decide that she needs to be replaced. And
so
and
what? Well, 80%, 90% incumbents get reelected.
but
Yeah, something like that.
but every one of them had to run and win the first time.
Yeah.
Well, that's been long gone.
We-
That's been long gone.
when we ran back in the early and mid 90s, it was an open field for African Americans. Like I said, we were the only 2 blacks on. But you
Yeah.
know what? I saw that there was an opportunity. So I said, 20 years ago, let me go on to become the nominations committee chair.
Mhm.
And the reason I wanted that slot more than any was because I saw how fast we turned over slots. And that would give me the opportunity to help, not appoint people, but at least encourage others to appoint them. And now, as a result, 20 years later, we have the most diverse Central Committee in the state of Maryland 20 years later.
That
I
we
don't
did.
know what that means, Linda. I'm focused on the black community. I don't know
We
what
have
diverse means because we get
22
lost.
We have
Just like
22
with minority
black
business.
people.
Just like
We
when
have
we talk about
22
minority
black
business.
people.
Just like when we talk about minority business, it used to mean black people, but today it means something. I'm talking about the black community. And what I
We have-
see is Dolores Kelly has been a leader and nobody out there can beat her. So y'all just don't know what to do.
Well, I don't know about that. Nobody else out there can beat her business. Everybody can be beaten. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody can be beaten.
I can tell you what attitude it's been.
Are there enough people out there willing to put in the work to make it happen?
Well, and here's the other thing, Donnie.
Julian,
We talk about
she did
respect
not support Julian.
women.
Pardon?
She did not support Julian. Julian got his butt whipped. Then he went back at it 2-3 times and won. And now people saying, "Oh, Julian got his butt up on his shoulders." Can't please some people.
No, you can't.
Julian won without Dolores.
Donnie, I would like
He did, because he was connected to the grassroots folks.
Mhm.
He was connected. Even when you talk about Senator Kelly and things like that, if you have a great campaign and you're known for doing the work in your district and your community, you will be successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
will be
Donnie,
successful.
Donnie, now I think we're at a point where the woman has been there long enough that she earned her respect, the respect as being the beginning. What you're basically saying is, what nobody's been willing to do, and in a lot of ways is, grandma has gotten older. Now we're going to put her out the house. Nobody wants to do that. She's been there 24 years. You got to
done it.
Huh?
Nobody
We can't
has
get you,
beat.
Danny.
Well, you know, if you want to look at that as a comparison to that, look at and maybe you know more about this than I do, Donnie, because I don't live in the city anymore. Look at McFadden. Look how Corey McRae beat McFadden. McFadden's been around for a long time in Baltimore City, right? So when Corey McRae beat him, how did that all come about, Donnie?
Look, Mac was a retirement in motion. Okay, Mac had as you know, he
Had
not
health
only had
issues.
serious health problems, he had many other issues, and
But that's
frankly,
not answering the question. That's not
I mean,
answering the question. Corey put together a machine, the Democratic Club over there, that Democratic Club. And he did it years before he ran for state senator. He went through the process. He brought other people along. Listen, I love Liberty Road, and I want to see other people get involved. But if you're gonna you gotta kill the king. You can't miss. You can't almost get the king. You missed, and now the king will make you pay.
I don't like to think of it as kill the king.
Show what is it?
I don't think of it as kill the king. It's just that now we have a lot of high energy people, really tech savvy young people with great high paying jobs, so high paying that they don't want to give them up for something as risky as politics. And some of them are working for these high paying federal jobs that don't even allow you to run for office.
That's true. The Hatch Act.
Why would you give up your federal job and take the risk of losing? And then how do you get back to making your $150,000?
By the way, Hatch Act does not prevent you
job
from running for office. By the way, that's not true.
It don't prevent.
No.
It just don't let you collect the money.
No,
right.
it don't do that either. Hatch Act has to do with your ability to campaign when you're a federal employee. It has nothing to do with your right
to run for campaign for yourself if you're running for office.
Yeah.
Pardon?
How would you campaign for your own self if you're running for office?
How would you
not campaign? You have to campaign for yourself.
No. The Hatch Act prohibits you from engaging in certain political activity during the course of your employment. You can't put signs on your car. You can't march in front of the
That's campaigning.
That's campaigning.
Yeah, but you don't campaign by yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't campaign by yourself. And quite frankly, if you're engaged in full-time campaign, you ain't got time to go to work anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. People are unwilling to take that risk. We have the press. If you come to that Northwest Democratic Club, you will see some of the brightest minds, some of the brightest young minds in the county. The problem is some of them have really big jobs that they don't want to give up.
Senator County.
What that means is,
I gotta say this. Hold up, Mr. Bob. Now, I don't know a lot about Danny or George as I do Kenny and Bob, but I know Kenny. I know Bob. Bob has worked. He worked his butt off to get to where he is. Kenny worked his butt off to build Northwest newspaper. I worked my butt off to build Be More News. We don't want to hear excuses about, oh, it's hard. Anything worth having is hard. Now, don't scare our young people away because it's hard.
Oh, now, I'm not. As Danny mentioned, not at all. I'm out there mentoring them and recruiting them every day. That's why we now have the college.
How difficult it is.
Yeah,
you're talking about how difficult it is.
No, I'm telling you the reality of the choices they're making. I don't want them to necessarily make those choices, but
we all had to make those choices.
They start getting.
We all had to make those choices. We all had to make those choices. It's not supposed to be comfortable.
But you and I came along at a time where people thought that the choices were worth the sacrifice. They're not coming along at that time. That's the difference.
Yeah, but Linda, let me say this: you and Donnie, there is no inconsistency or incongruity between what Donnie said. All that means is that the people that you're talking about, Linda, aren't the right ones. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that there's no one out there.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that.
So let's not wait. Let the ones who will, for whatever reason, like the commitment. And let me say something too. This system, the education system, is what causes the problem that Linda's talking about. Because the education, when you come out of school, these young people, they got enough debt to last them to their 50 years old or longer. By the time they get out of debt, they're too damn tired to do anything. And during the period when they owe the money, they're worthless because all they can do is figure out a way to pay the debt. And that's deliberate. Okay, that's deliberate. The system takes our youth away from us during the period when we ought to be when they ought to be available for the training that we need to give them. We got to look at this thing.
That's a good point.
In a global picture.
Well, that's a fact.
But it's very rare. Every now and then, there's one that I don't use this word loosely, but every now and then there's an anointed one. Every now and then there's one who really has got the commitment, the intelligence, the wisdom to take the mantle and to run with it. But that's rare because one of the things we don't even have an agreement on what a good leader is for our community. If I ask, when I argue all the time with people that look like us about a simple thing like reparations, I say, what, and you wouldn't believe the pushback, not just because Obama was against it, but you wouldn't believe the pushback. I said, look, everybody that got screwed got something for it. The Germans are still paying the Jews under the Holocaust Commission. The Japanese are still collecting money for the internment after the World War II. The Indians even got casinos out of it. The white folk who got the West out of the Homestead Act in 1800, thousands of acres of land given to it. We didn't get a penny. We didn't even get the 40 acres and the mule. But yet today, black folk would tell me that reparations, we don't need reparations no more because we have arrived. Come on. So the identifying somebody black, who's really black, who's willing, who understands what being black is, and who has the intelligence and the fortitude and the willingness to fight for it is a very rare thing. And you might struggle for ages before such a person, because you got to begin to train them almost from the time they leave the womb. You can't wait till they've been educated, because by then they've been educated to hate who they are. By then, Woodson was correct when he said the educated Negro is our worst enemy.
That's right.
Well, I don't know about that. I spent too much time on my education.
I know about it in the doorstep. I live in Baltimore City. I live in Baltimore City. We got a majority of black elected officials. We got a majority black elected official delegation here in Baltimore City. I know all about educated Negroes because they down in City Hall. And you know what they do, Linda? They invest in the Inner Harbor. They invest in Fells Point. But East and West Baltimore, where your people come from, is not getting nothing. Nothing, zilch, zero, nada.
That's right.
I know all about
it. And Donnie, they talk about Senator Kelly. Senator Kelly should be Donnie, you are a success story. But Senator Kelly should be mentoring someone to take her position. That's really what she should be doing.
She was. The boy stabbed in the back. Wrong.
We're not talking about, we're past all of that. We're talking about now, Donnie. As it is, wait a minute, Linda. As it is right now, everyone should be mentoring someone. Everyone should do that. You, in any position, any job, or whatever, you should always mentor somebody.
Pardon?
Danny, are we done with Rob? Is he no longer a consideration?
You know, to me, no. Rob is still someone I believe could do a good job representing the 10th Legislative District. I really believe that.
Who is that now?
Rob Johnson.
Robert Johnson. That's the young man that ran for state senator against her the last time around, who she used to mentor. They said that she put most of the money in his campaign.
But she also told him, Donnie, that she was going to step down too. She told him that. So it's not like he went rogue. She told him that she was going to do
I didn't know that.
Her mind. Well, there you go. Now you know.
I didn't know that part.
I know Rob very well. So it's going to make him look like a bad guy, but it's not.
He's not a bad guy.
The story behind it was that she told him what she was going to do. It was a planned exit plan, and she changed her mind.
Yeah,
and he couldn't
people
keep waiting.
do that.
Well, then,
with all due respect, I understand, but so now moving forward, do we try to support them again? I mean, my thing is,
Well, how
even
about
in
some
Baltimore,
young
especially
women
in Baltimore,
too?
all these,
Well, we need to support.
Linda, you
We
keep
need
talking.
someone else.
Linda,
We
black
need someone
women are
else.
doing better than black men. Do you realize that, Linda? Black women
I
are
know
doing
that,
better than
and
black
we
men.
keep
Black men are
moving
locked
on.
up.
And I've
And
known Bob for 20 years.
he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
I've known
Very
him for
educated,
20
very
years.
smart, and he would do a great job. And Linda, if there was some diversity over there in District 11, you would be a delegate.
Yes.
How about that? You would be a
Well,
senator. You should have been a senator before
Do black
Shelley
people?
Hellerman. You should have
Do
been a
black?
delegate before Lisa Castro. We know this, but it's not fair. And they and if we don't stick together, Donnie, if we don't stick together with our delegates, our senator, our central committee members, our communities, then we're gonna always find ourselves in this position. There's no reason in the world. There's no reason in the world. Wait a minute, Linda. There's no reason in the world why Jay Jalisi should be a delegate in the That's enough said.
well,
Oh my God!
That's enough
What
said.
did y'all do wrong?
That's enough said right there. When you don't have unity, and solidarity within your party, within your districts, whether it's legislative or councilmatic, you have pit holes. And people
Danny,
all I know is
Danny,
we need some more young people to step up in the 11th district. The 11th district right now is 40% African American and almost 50% minority. And yet, almost all of the representation since
Linda, with all due respect,
you can't.
I think the focus on young people is misguided. We need people who've been around long enough, and know enough and have acquired enough wisdom to do the job. And that ain't a young person. We need the young people to fall in line, right, and show some respect to the older folks and learn something. The world didn't start when Brandon Scott was born.
I agree.
Okay,
but
push for we need young people, but we need young people to do what young people are supposed to do in every other culture and community, which is go to the old people for guidance.
There you go. That's the problem.
That's what we need people to do. Not to say you young, so we can make you the leader. No.
Well, the young person that bumped me said, "I know I should be following you and should be grateful because you appointed me, but I'm not going to."
And you know what? You know what? And I guess I'm not gonna say it over there.
But look, Robert. The same problem is that even the older folks have are part of the problem.
Yes,
the older folks who have the knowledge, the wherewithal, all of this, they have everything.
Yeah,
and they're not out there supporting the people that they should to take them out or to get them prepared for the future. They haven't done it. Myself, I ran for the Central Committee in 2018 against all of these elected officials. I went to Ben Brooks. I went to Julian Jones. I went to Senator Kelly. I went to Jalisi, and I asked them all not to run for the Central Committee. All of them. Senator Kelly said, "I'm running for the Central Committee." Jalisi said, "I'm running for the Central Committee." Ben and Julian Jones said they was going to step down. So I was able to run it, and I was successful.
Yeah,
but that was the first time.
I would like to share. I would like to share one quick story, and I'm gonna leave. But this story I think capsulizes and you know where unfortunately sometimes we are as a people. In 1995 or so, when I was first appointed to the Baltimore County School Board, and at that time there were two blacks on the board. It was me and Dunbar Brooks. I'm sure you all remember Dunbar.
Yeah.
It came time to elect a new president of the board, and typically that had been a process of rotation. You know, the vice president will become the president. Well, Dunbar had been vice president, but they didn't think that he should be president of the Baltimore County Board of Education. And we stayed in that room that night until 1 o'clock in the morning, because I wouldn't change a vote. We stayed in there, and I wouldn't let the other people change the rules who were supposed to be with us until 1 o'clock in the morning, until finally the deal was made. Dunbar would be president, and their person would be vice president under him. Now, what the point is there was one committee of the Board of Education that really had power. It was the building committee. It was the one that controlled the capital expenditure. It was the one. I was the only one on the board that had any knowledge or experience in contracting, construction, or anything else. So I quite naturally thought that once Dunbar won, I would be the chair of the building committee, the one that really controlled the money. So I called the superintendent's office the next day to inform the secretary to give her some dates when she could arrange for a meeting of my committee. She said to me, Mr. DeShield, I'm sorry, Mr. Brooks didn't appoint you as chair of that committee. I said, what? No, he appointed someone from Southwest Baltimore County. So I called Dunbar. I said, man, I can't use the words I used with him, but I said, bro, what are you doing? How could you do this? I'm the reason that you are president. I'm the one who kept them there. He said, well, I had to give the white people something. We never spoke again. To the day he died, we never spoke again.
Oh,
but
my
that
Lord.
is the mentality that we face even among our own people. Okay?
Right today, we still have that problem. Same problem, same back station, same bad time, same problem.
There are those of us who get up in the morning and see the world with white folk making all the decisions, and that might be a truthful and accurate observation, but there are others of those who get up and see that and they say that's good. That's the way it's supposed to be. That is our problem.
You know, Donnie.
I wish you all a good day. This is an important discussion. I mean, we got to do this more often. And I apologize, Linda, because
Harriet Tubman gonna be at Penn North at 5 o'clock. Who's going with me? I'm gonna be there.
I'm with you. I'll be there.
But please,
now those that hesitated,
I got some time, and I'm working with the administration very closely. I would like to be a part of whatever's going on out there. I apologize that I don't know. But everybody knows how to reach out to you.
We're gonna reach out to you, man. Go ahead.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
But you know what, Donnie? This is a great format, man. You have a great show. Appreciate you inviting us to come in and discuss these changes.
I got a confession. We've talked about bullies and bosses and leaders. In the world of journalism, Kenny Brown is a leader, and I follow him. And he said that we got to do this show, but he already knew that y'all wasn't gonna get no cakewalk. I know you don't like Dolores.
Hey, Donnie, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, man.
You gotta beat her.
You know,
like Floyd Mayweather. Do you think Floyd Mayweather's gonna let somebody come in that ring and take his lunch money, Linda?
Right? Nope. No.
You got
but I tell you,
but he also knows what battles to fight.
Right. What? Hey, Donnie.
Okay.
All I can tell you was, after I heard of what the state party did, I felt a little earthquake. I felt a little earthquake in the city of Baltimore. Yes. I know they were mad down there. They didn't run out into the streets and tear the place up.
No, because unfortunately, just like Baltimore County, only a few people are paying attention to it at this point in the game. So you got to see how the story snowballs, how it evolves, who attempts to paint the storyline. The truth of the matter is, you're right. A state senator should be the state senator, and some other people should have a chance. And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. It's a fight. Whatever you do. And Linda, I will say this to you. I am not a minority. I am Black. Because we get lost in the sauce. Everybody's no, I am Black. And I'm talking about Black people in an unapologetically Black fashion. I don't care if the other people accept me or not. I don't care.
Sounds
I
like
don't live for the Lord. It's been a beautiful day. Kenny, it's all your fault too.
Well, I would encourage everyone to pay attention to the redistricting process and also to attend regularly the State Board of Election meetings. The State Board of Elections met yesterday, and it was the last day of one of the long-terming members. The next time they convene, they will have a new young Black male member on there for the first time, the youngest member. And his name is Jason Williams. He's an attorney, and yes, he is the nephew of Adrian Jones.
There you go.
What's he stand for? Does he stand for Black people? Will he take a hit for Black people? Does he represent Black business?
On the Board of Elections, there are only 5 appointed members, and because we have a Republican governor,
Let me be real good at not answering the question. Does he represent Black people?
Well, he's a Democrat. He's representing the Democrats.
So you don't know.
Well,
what track record does he have for representing Black people? Speaking up for Black issues, what track record does he have fighting for Black people? See, I don't give him a pass just because they Black. What did they do?
I agree.
Well, it remains.
I don't care what school they went to. I got a nephew go to Loyola Blakefield, but he don't know how to catch the bus. So I'm not impressed with where you went to school. I need some common sense people who know how to cross the street and get me across without getting me hit.
But guess what? Some of us went away to New England and got educated and came back and still had common sense, Donnie. Yours truly.
Okay. But
then you should be state senator. Go take that state senate job. Stop playing. Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
Kenny, George, Kenny, we got to run. Thank you. It's been a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone. We'll be back tonight at 7 p.m.
All right, thanks, Donnie.
Thank you.